podcast with your hosts, Eric and Chris Martinez. We have our guest, Eric Helms, on live right now. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing even better now that I'm talking to your two pretty identical faces.
We got to keep those eyebrows clean, man. So let's get this show started with basically, who is Eric Helms? Can you just kind of tell the audience who you are, some background info, any highlights?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a guy who's just turned 28 for the fifth time. I live in New Zealand currently. That's 33, by the way, for those who can't do math. I live in New Zealand. I'm doing my PhD in strength and conditioning here. And I'm a lover of the sport, science, and practice of bodybuilding and powerlifting. And I am 1/5 of 3D Muscle Journey, which is a company, a coaching team, all based around trying to support the community, those communities, the drug-free lifting community specifically, and to try to bring an evidence-based approach to the forefront. And I'm a researcher, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm an athlete, and that's basically what I do. And I've been in and involved in the sport since 2005, 2006, that area. So somewhere around there.
Cool. So, I mean, you talked about a little bit about your PhD, what you're doing over there in New Zealand. So what was that burning desire that you had, to go over there and do your PhD? Because this isn't something that's very easy to do for a lot of people, especially travel to a different country to do as well.
Yeah, for me, a big sense of, I have a lot of gratitude for what I have learned through bodybuilding. So I wanted to give back to it. And I was, doing the best I could, disseminating information that other people had researched. But for those who don't know, when you do a research-based degree like a PhD, you are actually contributing to the research body, So I was motivated to go out and try to do specific relevant research for the community as the way to get my degree. So it wasn't completely like selfless, like I'm Mother Teresa to go do my PhD for the community or anything like that. But,
yeah.
But I also very motivated to take myself as far as I can in terms of my intellectual and educational development, and just be I really want to be a leader, or to rather, if I'm going to be seen as a leader, I want to be the most effective one I can be.
Right.
And I enjoy it. I'm not going to do something I don't like. So I very much, enjoy the science of it too. So it's not like I'm slaving away going, oh, the community needs me to suffer, anything like that. Like, I definitely am very curious and passionate about the science and theory behind things relevant for powerlifting and bodybuilding for sure.
That's awesome. So what would you say the biggest transition was moving from the States over to New Zealand?
Wow. Well, the move is the craziest part. I actually talked to a lot of potential graduate students who want to do their PhD in New Zealand at AUT, because it's a pretty cool university as far as what its reputation is, it's pretty well known in the strength and conditioning field, and it's very much like applied research, and they have a good lab. It's probably the premier sports science university in New Zealand and one of the top ones in the world. So anyway, I get a lot of interest asking me, hey, tell me about AUT. And I tell people AUT is great. However, getting out to New Zealand from the States is going to require you to get a student visa and move your entire life, which means that you have to get an FBI background check.
Was yours clean?
No, but they took me anyway, despite all the depravities that I've committed. So you have to get an FBI background check. You have to get a full medical exam, including chest x-rays to confirm you don't have tuberculosis. Blood's done. And you have to time all of this so that you can get your visa on time. You also have to show them that you are financially stable while you're out there. So you have to show them a certain amount of money in your bank account or a steady income. And it's very difficult to show someone a steady income when you are self-employed like I am, or pay myself through an LLC, right? So I had to save a whole bunch of money up to show that. And it's a good thing I did, because once you get here, it's not like moving across even the country where you can, get a U-Haul and take all your stuff with you.
Right.
We did 2 huge garage sales, sold everything we owned, sold our cars, got here and had to put a security deposit down, buy a vehicle, find a place, get new phones because it's a completely different network here, and
Jeez.
And just really reestablish our life. And then same thing again is, I have a very flexible career that doesn't matter where I live, but my wife,
right.
She was working as a dog trainer, so she had to restart her whole business, and it was more than a year before she started being able to have income. So we were scraping to make things work when we first got here.
Right.
So that was by far the hardest part.
Yeah. Jeez.
Wow.
Since we're on the same topic of this, though, and we've never been in New Zealand before, and I know you're a married man, and Eric right here is single.
I am.
He wants to know what the women are like there compared to the women in the States.
Well, I don't look because I'm married, right? No.
Oh, we can all look, though.
No, one thing I found is that where I live specifically in Auckland, it's a very multicultural city. So, like, if you were to walk out in the middle of the street in downtown Auckland, that's kind of the area I live. You don't know if I just like put a hood on your head and popped you in the middle of the street, you wouldn't be able to tell what country you're in, which is kind of cool. Besides the fact that you're going the wrong direction, you would know it was English speaking, and you could probably guess if you saw something spelled with an O-U-R versus an O-R. But it's super metropolitan. There's a lot of people who visit here and travel. You probably guess it wasn't somewhere in the States because there's not a lot of Africans here or people with really dark skin, because it's not where it's hard to frickin' migrate from Africa to New Zealand.
Right.
And obviously we have a lot of African Americans in the States. So you'd see a lot of Asians, you'd see a lot of obviously European descent people, and Polynesians and everyone in between. So it's good. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Would the chicks dig the eyebrows?
Oh, your guys' eyebrows are internationally known and loved. So there's nowhere you can't go with those. Yeah,
right on, man. Cool, man. So let's kind of shift gears here. So Chris and I are just really huge proponents on daily rituals, getting our day started, just to kind of set the foundation, set the tone for each day, be as productive as possible. So can you tell us, what are your go-to, or what is your daily ritual if you have one, and what do you usually do in the first 60 to 120 minutes of your day?
Great question. Yeah, I have to compartmentalize my day a lot because I wear a lot of different hats, right?
Gotcha.
So I'm doing my PhD, and I have thank God I have a scholarship that pays my tuition and allows me to get some income from that. But it also, I had to sign a contract when I got that scholarship to how much time I'd allocate to work outside of my PhD per week. And there's actually a cap on that. So once I did that, I started to bring down my client load as much as I could. I'm not just going to, sorry, dude, I don't care that you're 6 weeks out. We're done working together. It's more like I stopped taking on new people, and then slowly my client load over 3 years has kind of come down. But so anyway, I've got my university work that I've got to do for my PhD. I've got my 3DMJ work. I also have, although it's largely passive income, the books that I recently wrote, the Muscle and Strength Pyramids, that still requires some maintenance. Like we have, a page on there where we answer questions, and we do some emails, and we keep the content updated. People ask questions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got multiple businesses that I've got my hand in. I'm a PhD student, and I'm also an athlete. I train 6 to 8 hours a week. And spread that out over the week, over about 6 days. I find short workouts are better for me, just for my time management. And then I also try to manage my social life. So doing all of that, I have to compartmentalize. So the first thing I do, I normally wake up in the morning somewhere around 6:30 to 7 a.m. Just naturally, kind of that's when my body tends to wake up. And I almost always have something scheduled at 8 a.m. on Skype, whether it is a podcast like we're doing right now, it's 8 a.m. here, or whether that's an actual Skype consultation with a client. And if not, then I spend that time getting my client work done. So my goal on most days is to get my client work done by just before lunch. So I spend 3-4 hours on that, depending on how early I get up and how long it takes me and how late I'm willing to push lunch back. And then I go to AUT, or I stay here and I work on my PhD work.
Okay, gotcha. And how long would you spend on that for?
It's basically until I want to go lift weights, until my mind starts to burn out. And there's in fact, there's even compartmentalization within that. Like, for example, I'm working on a big systematic lit review, and I'm writing it now. I'm not in the search selection anymore of the actual studies. But like when you do a systematic review, you have to go through hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but depending on how big it is, hundreds or thousands of studies to determine what should be included. And it's very kind of mindless. Like, read a title, is that relevant? No, delete out of my EndNote kind of thing.
Got it.
Or doing things like formatting my PhD, very mindless, like, okay, chapter, head note, things like that. So I have like tasks that just take time but not mental energy that I will do, and then I have actual mental energy tasks, like I have to write something, be creative, generate the content of my PhD. So I will normally start with the stuff that requires energy, and when I start to get burned out, I just switch. And then if I get a recharge, great, I switch back. If I switch back and I'm still burned out, then I just go train and go home. So
Gotcha.
Most of the time what that looks like is I do client work and 3DMJ and muscle journey related stuff and my book related stuff until noon, eat lunch, and then I work from about say 12:31 on my PhD till about 4 to 5, and then I train and get home 7:38 and hang out with my wife.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then what time would you say on a daily basis you hit the sack?
Probably between 10 and 11.
10, 11. Okay,
Gotcha.
cool. All right, cool. So, I mean, with all those things you have on your plate, man, I mean, pretty much, like, what are your 3, like, most vital goals, like, right now with all that on your plate? I would say, because sometimes I don't like breaking it up all the way to the year. I think that's too much sometimes. I think more feasible, realistic is maybe 3 to 6 months. So what would you say your 3 vital goals are for the next 3 to 6 months with everything you have going on?
Beautiful. I like 3 to 6 months because then I can be more specific. So
right.
In the next 3 months, let's see, it's May. So it'll be May, June, July. When I hit July, that's when my schedule starts getting crazy with travel. We've got the 3MJ SBS UK conference that we're doing in July.
Okay.
And then I'm also speaking at the NSCA National Conference. Then I get home mid-July, and then in August, I've got New Zealand Powerlifting Nationals down in Christchurch, which is kind of like the other end of the country. And then the AFPT Academy for Personal Training conference in Oslo, Norway. So once July comes, my productivity is going to be worse. There's no way around it because I'm speaking. So my goal by July is to write up a first draft of the next study that I'm going to submit for publication that's coming out of my PhD on fatigue percentages, auto-regulating volume, and then also the lit review that I was talking about. So if I can get those 2 first review, like drafts written and sent off to my supervisors so they can start editing it, then we can, while I'm traveling or once I get back, submit them to journals, then that's basically like 2 chapters of my PhD finished, which frees me up for later this year when I'm going to Florida, which is kind of like 6 months out, and I'll be there collecting data with Dr. Mike Zerdos, actually finishing the final collection of my PhD. So right now, my goals are keep my marriage, friendships, and balanced. That's kind of primary top thing, maintain my being a good husband, a good friend to the people who care about me, being a good coach to the limited number of athletes I still work with, stay on top of all my business stuff, while primarily focusing on getting those chapters done.
Gotcha.
And preparing for the travel to come.
Okay,
Gotcha.
Cool, man. So one more question, kind of just to piggyback on that. So, I mean, you have pretty much speaking engagements, you have, the muscle and strength pyramid, you have your coaching right now, you have your PhD thesis. So you got a shitload of stuff going on right now, right? So What is Eric Helms' ultimate vision? Where do you see 3DMJ? Where do you see Eric Helms in the ultimate vision?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think I want to solidify 3DMJ as and because 3DMJ and Eric Helms, their Venn diagrams cross a lot, but they're not completely overlapped,
Right.
Each one of us have our own, identities within the organization and what our role is. Mine is pretty obvious. I'm kind of like the research and development science arm of 3DMJ. So it's my role to solidify myself and therefore by default 3DMJ as a leader and the highest rung of the leader that I can get it to in an evidence-based approach to drug-free bodybuilding and powerlifting. But more than that, 3DMJ is primarily about community and advancing the community as a whole, which includes evidence-based practice, but also has to do with intangible things like finding a better life balance with bodybuilding. Understanding, putting our priorities and goals in order, and supporting the sport in a more general sense and the athletes who compete in it, helping athletes be successful over a lifetime. So basically exposing 3DMJ on a broader scale. I mean, it's never going to get too big. I mean, obviously,
right.
It's not like the average person sitting in the living room is like, I've been thinking about Donald Trump today and natural bodybuilding. You're like, so I mean, right. But it would be good if there weren't. What I don't want is for there to be natural competitive bodybuilders and powerlifters who don't know who we are.
Right.
So if we can get our information and our presence out there on that kind of scale, and then continue to put out good content, so we can really help as many people as possible. That is where I see it. My ultimate vision of myself is I've finished my PhD, and I've transitioned from being a PhD student here at AUT to someone who is basically a research associate, so that I'm supervising new masters and new PhD students who want to study things in the same area that I have my specialty in, and helping the research to continue to come out.
Nice.
And that is basically the way the research system works 90% of the time. Is the PhD students and master students as well are the primary drivers of new scientific research, at least in the university setting. There's also, private grants and private funding and stuff like that. And then the professors kind of step back and end up being, and not that I'd be a professor, I'd probably be supervisor. Your committee chair, supervisor, professor, depending on the role of the person, it's all the same. They end up being kind of a mentor role with the student who's the primary one doing the research.
Gotcha. Nice. Sweet.
So that's kind of where I want to step into, so I can ensure that, because it's a trade-off. Like, I'm going to have less operational control over what's happening in the lab, right? Because it's not my thesis anymore; it's a thesis I'm helping with, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it frees me up to ensure that, say, 4 or 5 research projects are being done in a good way by good people that will help the community, and I'm helping 5 young scientists become skilled at what they do and developing their career, versus having complete control over my baby kind of research is what I'm doing for my PhD. So
yeah, right.
It'll be a fun transition.
Cool. Nice.
Awesome.
Now, if only life were a linear road, right? And nothing came up, there's no setbacks, obstacles, that'd be kind of crazy. But so my question is, what kind of challenges or obstacles are you currently facing right now, that's kind of, blocking you from, your goals, your vision, or anything in that kind of realm?
Yeah, man. Time has been a big one. Time, energy, motivation, and then not getting dragged down by some of the thing about 2016 and 2017, as we're coming into that in the next 6 to 7 months, is that to do what we're trying to do, you have to be a presence online.
Right.
You have to put yourself out there. And I respect people who put themselves out there and have to show a certain level of vulnerability, but it's also uncomfortable. And it's unavoidable to not get people who are negative or judgmental, or just create drama and stress in your life. And I'm human like anybody else, so that stuff definitely does affect me. And that, I find, it is distracting to all the things I'm trying to get done.
Right.
I'm totally fine with debating stuff online about the science and all that stuff, but when it gets personal with either me or my friends or things like that, and I'm not thinking of anything specific, I'm just thinking over the last 11 years, me being on the internet, that is something that is kind of it's always there to some degree, and it can be annoying, distracting, counterproductive, and it's more of just a matter of me getting better and better with managing that in an effective way, figuring out what do I want to be involved with, what do I not want to be involved with, what do I want to for example, I don't read YouTube comments anymore, just in general.
Right.
Stuff like that. Other barriers are the logistics of research. It took me 6 months to do a study with 12 participants, which is any researcher sitting here is going, wow, that's crazily inefficient. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So sometimes it's very difficult to recruit and get things done on niche populations like bodybuilders or powerlifters. And that can be very stressful. Then you look at your timeline for your PhD and go, right, so I'm 3 months behind now. How do I make this work? And I figured out a solution to that. I'm actually traveling to collect more data instead of trying to do it here for all of my data. But point is that, like you said, there's a funny saying is, what's the easiest way to make God laugh? Tell him your plans, and so things never do go according to plan. So the PhD, I know, probably won't look like what I think it's going to look like now. It changes every few months to kind of fit the realities of life. Same thing is going to be true of my business. And actually, one thing I didn't mention in my goals is my goals as an athlete, because they're kind of pushed back until after I'm done. But I've had some setbacks as an athlete too.
Right.
So I think I've talked to you guys about this, but I have FAI.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for all the listeners, I have what's called femoral acetabular impingement, which basically means that after 12 years of lifting weights and not having the best genetically built hips for weightlifting or resistance training in general, that I am with a deep hip angle, so like a low bar squat position, if you can think of that. When I approach meet depth in a squat, I get actual bone-on-bone contact, and that can damage my labrum and create bone spurs and cause me issues. So I have to do like box squats in training or front squats where there's less of a hip angle, and that makes it harder for me to progress as a power lifter. So things like that come up as well. So I'm feeling the effects maybe of age, or at least of training age. So.
Yeah, it sucks, man. We can't stop the clock.
Bullshit. Yeah.
So I think, man, a really good time right now to talk about is this question. You talked about kind of like your distractions, your challenges, some of the frustrations. So let's just say somebody came up to you and said, Eric, I will give you $1 billion to walk away from it all. You can't do anything in the fitness industry. You can't finish your PhD. 3D muscle journey has to basically become extinct. Would you take that $1 billion and walk away from it all and never do anything again that's relevant to what you're doing right now?
No.
Okay.
It's a really easy answer.
How come?
Man. I mean,
How come?
Well, I'm not motivated by money. Like, if someone said, hey, I'm going to give you $10 million or $1 billion, that would feel like the same to me. Because what am I going to do with that? Like, come on.
Right.
Maybe I become like a philanthropist or something. But like for example,
open up some strip clubs. No,
exactly. Of course. I've philanthropized the booty, right? But like, for example, and this is just more like kind of a lifestyle comment about the way I live. Like, I enjoy living in a nice area. I enjoy going out to eat. I enjoy certain things, but I don't enjoy luxury for luxury's sake. Like, for example, I drive a 1999 Toyota, and I paid $5,000 for it when I first got here, and that included a warranty. So, like,
nice.
I'm going to drive that until it doesn't function anymore, and then I'll get something similar.
It gets you from point A to point B, right?
Right. It doesn't matter, right? So I might buy clothes that are like, for example, I spent some money on tailored jeans just because I can never find jeans that fit my quads and match my waist. I'm a typical guy who lifts weights, right? And I spent money on that, but I only have one pair or like two pairs of jeans anyway. So it doesn't so I'm not really motivated by a lot of money. When I look at money, all I want is financial freedom. I just don't want to have to worry about it. But I don't want to retire. Like I don't know. I've never seen people who do nothing that are happy. Like most people, if they're told, "Hey, you've got unlimited money," they wouldn't be like, "Well, I want to sit on the beach with a Mai Tai every day, all day, and that's it."
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't get me wrong. I like to do that, but I will also be like, "So when are we going to go train?" Or have you seen the recent research on periodization? Like, we should go check that out. Yeah. So like I really do what I do because I love it. Now that said, I struggle to not do too much. I always overfill my plate. I think I can take on more than I can. And then there's always a straw that breaks the camel's back. The apple cart gets upset, and I start flailing around and freaking out. So my life lessons have been to try to leave my plate about 80% full so that I can adapt to life and do the things I want. And one thing I realized through the process of my PhD is that I actually do want to do less than I'm currently doing. So a lot of what I'm doing is working on setting up, passive income and looking at, okay, what are the ways I can contribute to the community that doesn't require dollars for hours all the time,
Right.
Because I need more downtime, I need more personal time, or I'll burn myself out and then I'll be good to no one, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So you're trying to kind of automate things a little bit, kind of just, scale your business a little bit more, just so you have more time for Eric Helms to do what he shines at.
That's a great summary. And a good example would be the Muscle and Strength Pyramid books. I used to literally answer multiple questions per day from random people on the internet to help them from, say, 2007 all the way till 2012. And then I made the pyramid videos so I could basically be like, well, 90% of these questions are answered by either this video or this video. Just because I just couldn't do it anymore. After nearly a decade of being the Q&A guy, I was just like, fuck, I hate repeating myself. I don't want to do it anymore, but there's still a need for it, because it's not like I'm not repeating myself to the same people. Like, there are people who are 18 now who in 2007 were in elementary school. So of course they weren't listening to what I expect. They have questions just like we all did when we started. So I just realized that I can't do it all. And if I try to, I'll just be like, screw this. I'm gonna go live like a hermit, So
yeah,
exactly.
All right, man. Well, let me throw you a curveball here. So, what if somebody gave you $1 million, but you had to spend it on one thing within your business? What would you do? Only one thing, though.
Okay, if I had $1 million, what would I spend it on in my own business?
Within your business.
Well, my first thought is I need to consult with the guys. Like, what would we do? Because I'm only 1/4 of that.
Well, you can't consult with the guys here. This is Eric Helms, what he wants with that $1 million spent on his business.
Well, then I probably wouldn't spend it on. Well, the thing is I'm a part of 2 LLCs with partners, so it's a very hard question. That's a good question. Well, I think I would probably want to pay all of the people who act as support staff for 3DMJ and the Muscle and Strength Pyramids as much as I really want to, and actually get more of them, because we don't have that many. And automate a lot of things. So it would probably go into automating stuff. Like, I would make sure that we had, I don't even know what's possible, honestly, because I'm not a tech guy, but I would like to see all of our application processes, all of our billing, all of our all that stuff taken care of, so that we can spend more time on doing what we love, which is working with athletes and putting out content.
Gotcha.
Having a 3-person webmaster team that could update it, like if I text somebody, it happens in 5 minutes, kind of thing, that type of thing.
Exactly.
Absolutely, that'd be sick.
Gotcha.
Cool, man.
Probably wouldn't even take $1 million, to be honest. It'd be like $50K or something.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of going back to what we were talking about, kind of what is an obstacle or what's a challenge right now, and you mentioned that kind of putting yourself out there, with social media, delivering content. So I guess my question is, how do you best deliver and serve to your audience?
Well, when I started, I was like, if we go way back to when there wasn't the same kind of social media there is now, the big way I interacted with people was on the forums of bodybuilding.com. And I was primarily an athlete who was just sharing his personal experience, which is a common thing people do now. There are a lot of people who are quote unquote Insta famous or have their YouTube blogs, and I'm not even down I'm not bashing that. I'm saying I think it's valuable for people to share their personal experiences so others can learn from that and figure out their own journey. And that was what I did for a long time. And then as 3DMJ became more and more prominent and new social media platforms came out, I was giving that and also my coaching perspective. And then as I got into academia, I was like, I can give that, the coaching perspective, the athlete perspective, the coaching perspective, and the research, and then integrate them. And that is kind of what you see me do now. I like to take all these little bits and pieces of information that are often misunderstood on their own, or not completely understood, or left out of context, and then take them all together and go, right, and here's what that means for you as an athlete or a coach. That's basically what the Muscle and Strength Pyramids are. There's nothing in any of those levels that is truly groundbreaking, in my opinion. Sure, there's research on what's an appropriate macronutrient intake, or nutrient timing or supplementation. But that's all other people's work. I just put it together and said, well, what's the hierarchy of importance? What should you focus on? And what's a good conceptual way of thinking of it?
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the way my brain works, and that I just go, right, I'm not going to try to do something I'm not good at. I'm never going to be the molecular biologist, like people think I'm smart, but when I know people who've memorized every pathway of anabolism and catabolism in like a in vitro model, I'm like, wow, that's a different kind of intelligence I don't have. Like, I save that for the reference books, and if I have to figure out if it matters, and then I remember it and then I forget it to explain it, kind of thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm never going to try to do that, and I don't know how useful that is anyway for the mission statement that we have with 3D Muscle Journey. We're not trying to, progress the molecular biology of skeletal muscle hypertrophy. I'll leave that to the molecular biologist. That is pretty much the primary mode that I operate with, and I find that works great both on video because I'm an extrovert, and it takes more time and effort for me, but writing as well. Obviously, I've done a fair amount of writing articles, both published, non-published, and ebook. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on the videos.
Thank you.
And for those that don't know, Eric Helms got an Instagram now, so he was influenced by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes, Gary Vaynerchuk finally influenced me, which was good to hear. That was an interesting story because, as he would say,
Gary's awesome.
Yes, and as he would say, I was being very romantic about my social media opinions. Like, why do I need to be on this? Like, you don't need to see me. Like, what do I have to? This is stupid. Children with your ADD, And then I think when he gave this keynote address and he was saying, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am here to sell you things. This is a platform. This is the best way to view it. And just his honesty and his very much saying, look, what is your mission statement and what are you trying to get done? And if you could do it better with a social media platform, but you're not doing it because you're being romantic, that's stupid. And I was like,
right,
well, fair enough. So then, literally after I saw that video, I think a week later, I had an Instagram account because why not? It only helps me help do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny too. I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. I listened to his daily vlog, and like he said something one time where you have to adapt to where the attention span is currently, and attention span has gone more video. So that's why Snapchat is becoming so big. Obviously Instagram. So it's one of those things, man. As much as we hate doing it and time consuming it is, we have to adapt to it, and it's just times are changing.
They are, and honestly, it's not even. I was surprised by how lazy you can be and still be relatively active on Instagram. It doesn't require that much,
Right.
It does require a little bit of creativity, and you have to understand the platform is different. Like, you can't make a 15-minute video on a nutritional tutorial, but I can point them in the right direction. I can say something more from kind of that coaching perspective of kind of your broader mindset. Or I can make silly videos on how to out-angle people,
Right.
Which, by the way, I think is my best work to date, personally. How to angle people. Serious. But.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, when we were about to start a Snapchat, I told Eric, as long as you don't sit there and show the world that you try on wigs after you have a couple IPA beers, then we'll do it.
Yeah, I like that.
Pretty much.
Although, so if we can get you both on a couple IPA beers, would he show the world that? That's what we need to have him.
Oh man, that's an experiment right there.
It's funny. The little brother's always going to be clowning. It's okay.
I like that. What's the actual age difference?
Oh, just 1 minute.
It
still counts,
like
man.
It
still counts.
But I'm stronger in the gym, though.
Oh, it's because you're younger.
Yeah. And he's lucky I have a girlfriend. If not, I mean, I would probably, I don't want to say it on record, but get more women.
I still like it.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. I'll let him have that.
All right, man. So on a serious note, okay, so I kind of want to shift gears towards helping those out because we probably have some listeners, and when this gets out, that are obviously coaches, people that want to go through the ranks and kind of learn how to become evidence-based coaches. So I always like to try to give back that way. So you've obviously heard of the 10,000 hour rule from Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yeah. Interesting concept for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's a concept from Malcolm Gladwell. He's an author. I think he wrote it in the book Outliers. Okay, so he has this concept that you have to put in 10,000 hours to basically become an expert in anything. Okay, I personally kind of call bullshit on that. I think it's more kind of you need to put in about maybe 10 years to become an expert. But I want to get Eric Helms' thoughts on that.
I think
if somebody that wants to be a coach,
I think the concept holds true. I think trying to pin it down to a very specific number of hours is going to be dependent on the individual, how efficient they are at learning and applying and understanding, and then the context of what you're trying to learn. A great one is like driving. Like, I don't know if it takes you 10 years to become a great driver. I honestly don't know if I was a better driver 5 years in than I am now 10 years. And sometimes you see people with 20 years of driving experience and they're worse, So, the point is that I do agree that to become a master of something, it takes experience. And you can come out of a degree program with a very good theoretical understanding of something, and you can have no idea what to do when you go in the gym if you want to be a personal trainer kind of thing.
Right.
And that's true of probably any, I'm not going to speak outside of my field, that's true of probably any academic field. If you don't have the practical experience of applying the knowledge, it's just not the same knowledge or ability as just having the theory.
Right.
And I would say that this is funny because being a online, what we do is, being online bodybuilding and powerlifting coaches and fitness coaches in general, it's almost, I think there will be a time when I won't have to say online,
Right.
Like right now, I talk to a lot of personal trainers, and a lot of them have a hybrid approach anyway. Like they will start out with meeting their clients 3 times a week in the gym, and then they'll eventually bring it down to once or twice per week, and they work out on their own, and they have some type of technology to report that and keep the accountability, whether it's video or whether it's like a body bug type thing, or they log it. And people are writing training programs and nutritional approaches online for their clients, even when they're in the same geographical location,
Right.
Because it just allows for more efficiency, and I think it's good to create more autonomy. And it allows the personal trainer to work more hours and be able to, make things work financially. So anyway, the point being is that this is I started being an online coach around the time people started being online coaches. I'd only been a few years that I think like guys like Dr. Joe or Lane were doing their thing before we started doing our thing. And so it's funny that we had to develop. There was no path to walk. Like if you want to become an expert tennis player, you get a tennis coach, right? If you want to become an expert chess player, you get the books that have been around since the 1800s, and you get a chess coach and you play chess. So for us, I'm very fortunate. I think that we had the 4 of us that we have always had and now the 5 of us, we've always had this approach of we need to meet regularly, talk, and make sure we're on the same page, share our methods, and constantly try to do what we do better and more efficiently, and get a better quality coaching service to the athlete. And all I can say is that if when I look at what I was doing in 2010 compared to now, I always just feel like I want to apologize to some of the people,
Right.
And for the time, I obviously I thought I was doing the best thing, but yeah, there's so much growth that happens over years, and I can definitely see myself being better and having more systems in place now than what I did years ago. So I think the concept holds true.
Gotcha. Okay. So now we're going to kind of shift some gears here and do kind of like some rapid fire questions with you. So kind of mix things up. So what would you say? What do you like to do for fun?
See movies.
And don't hold back.
I like
don't hold back.
I like to see movies. I'd like to dance on occasion.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of music though?
Well, it has to have something that is funky or has a good break beat.
Nice.
And I'll let people decide what kind of dancing goes to break beats. And they can figure that on their own. I like to hang out with my friends. I'm a big fan of spending some social time in a good environment, having people over.
Yep.
As cliche as it is, I really enjoy training. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the day. I still do. That hasn't changed. And I enjoy screwing around on social media. I enjoy traveling. And I enjoy sitting on the couch with my wife, watching our handful of shows that we like to watch, like, you know, Game of Thrones, The Nick. What are some other good shows that are out?
Not the Kardashians?
No, definitely don't watch the
I'm just kidding.
Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead. There's a good number that are out there. Oh, Daredevil, the Netflix Marvel stuff is really good. Jessica Jones.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on TV these days, man.
Right on. Yeah, there is.
Cool.
Cool, man. So you talked about
one more. I do a lot of reading. I read a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was gonna say something was missing there.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I guess let me ask you that. What are you currently reading right now?
I'm reading a book called The Emperor's Blades. It's a trilogy about. It's a fantasy trilogy. I think it's called The Emperor's Blades. I have to go look. It might be the second book or the first book. But I think it's called the Unhewn Throne trilogy. I can't remember. But it's about this fantastical empire where the emperor is killed and the 3 kids are trying to figure out what happened and put the emperor back together, and they're put in these odd positions, and there's gods and demons and all kinds of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, gotcha. Cool. So would you say that's what you really do for self-development, is just read books?
I wouldn't
on
say
your own,
self-development. I would say that reading fantasy and sci-fi is getting away from. It's completely outside of what I do all day. Like,
right.
I compete as a bodybuilder and powerlifter. I coach bodybuilders and powerlifters. I do research on bodybuilders and powerlifters, and I generate educational resources for bodybuilding and powerlifting coaches. Like, that's what I do. So then when I freaking read about Valen flying a giant bird to go fight the Sestream, I'm like, this is a good break, So
right on. Yeah.
So what do you do for self-development wise then?
Self-development in terms of career development or just personal development?
I'd say personal development, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually always been a fan of. So I have a gratitude journal. So
Nice.
I write things that I'm grateful for. I have been in and out of, not as like a corrective thing always, like, oh, I'm broken, I need to go do this, but therapy and counseling throughout the course of my life. I think that has been very helpful for me to have talk therapy with a good counselor. And again, I think I would like to see one day when, just like we have preventative healthcare, which is basically what I would say fitness is, if we have that same perspective for mental health,
Gotcha.
So it's not like I wait until I am frickin' broken, wrecked, and crying in the streets before I go, I gotta get some help. Like, I do think there is value in getting outside perspective on mental health, and I think that can be valuable for couples. I think that can be valuable for individuals. And there's a whole career field out there. And like with any career field, we know there are shitty personal trainers and there's good personal trainers. This is true of this as well. So I know these evoke emotional responses in listeners, but like your quote unquote life coaches, like, I think, considering I am a coach for bodybuilders, which bodybuilding never goes away, it's something you have to integrate into your lifestyle. I do a lot of what you would probably call, life coaching, and I think that's something that we can all benefit from, and that's something that I definitely have. So I like to utilize my support network to a great deal. And I also do. I have read and I do read things in more of the personal development realm at times. But yeah, I would say gratitude journal, counseling, and then self-evaluation, like writing things down. What are my goals? Like, the question you guys asked me, I knew the answer to them because I think about those things. So.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
Awesome, man. Amen to all that.
Yeah, and like I love that whole thing with like the gratitude journal. That's something that I do personally every morning. That's part of my ritual. I write down 3 to 4 things I'm grateful for. So that helps me, just start my day and put my, mindset in a positive, state. So my next question is, what are you currently grateful for and why?
Beautiful question. Yeah, I tend to do it before I go to bed. I feel like I've noticed my sleep quality and quantity has improved a little bit from that.
Nice.
I tend to my mind spins, and I tend to obsess over things. And I find if I can get myself into a position of being grateful, that can help counteract that, prevent me from having like a couple of bad weeks. So currently, what I'm probably say I'm most grateful for is the relationship I have with my wife.
Nice.
So Barb and I are doing really well right now. love it. We've been married over 10 years, and I'm just very, like, right now it's just been very good, and so it feels very, very fulfilling being with her, and it's very cool to see us both growing together and as individuals. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm also very grateful for the success of the Muscle and Strength Pyramids. Being able to get out that information to a very broad base of people makes me feel like I've succeeded in a lot of my mission statements, and it's also provided me more free time, because I don't have to. Now I've diversified my income, so I don't have to just be coaching 40 athletes a week kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm grateful for the perspective that's given me, because now I look at how do I bring that to the rest of the team? How do I help? Brad, Jeff, Berto, how do I get them in a position to where, we're not 56 trying to coach 40 athletes and, and trying to also, balance the life of someone who's looking at retirement kind of thing. So it's
Gotcha.
I'm grateful that I'm actually in the position where I could start thinking about the long game and being strategic rather than tactical.
Nice,
man.
Love it.
All right, so if you could go back to when you were 25 years old, what kind of advice would Eric give himself?
So, okay, 25. That was 2000. Give me a second. I have to do math. So it's 20. It was 2003. So that means 2006.
8.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I'm no math whiz either, man.
2008. Okay, that's different advice than 2006. That's good. So 2008. What was happening in my life? That was before 3DMJ started, and that was watching Berto compete and get his pro card in every national organization on the planet, and being very, very hungry at that time. I was hungry. I wanted to be as successful as Berto, and really get back on stage. And I had to really talk myself into being patient, keeping my off season going. But I really had it in my head that 2009 was going to be my year. I was going to get my pro card. I was going to be the man. And I didn't get my pro card. And I had to face more realities about what are my capabilities in bodybuilding and what am I going to have to do to be successful. And I think if I could have told myself, hey, stop treating this year like the last year you're ever going to compete is 2009, and start treating your mindset in this off season and your approach to this next season like you want to be competing when you're in the Masters 2 category. Chill out a little bit. You're going to be happy if you do so. I probably wouldn't have listened, but that's what I would have told myself.
Gotcha.
I like that, man.
Nice, man. All right, so I guess our last and final question is, what is living a dynamic lifestyle mean to you?
I like that word dynamic, because it to me, I actually just made a post on our YouTube about static versus dynamic stretching. At least that's part of it.
Right.
Which I'm about to watch soon.
Good one. It's part of the series Science and Application with Eric Helms. SAWEH. Yeah. It's pronounced say what? But no, on a serious note, so when I think of someone who is static, I think they are not changing. There are some people who would say, people don't change. And they tend to be very cynical, and they tend to be people who don't change, who say that. They are reflecting their own personal experience and I guess fear and stubbornness onto the rest of the world. So I see living a dynamic lifestyle as being someone who is always open to change, and trying to encourage personal growth within yourself.
Gotcha. Love it.
Awesome, man.
So so just to end the show, Chris and I, just want to take a moment to just acknowledge you, man. Say thank you very much for all you do within the fitness industry, powerlifting, bodybuilding, all that stuff. Chris and I have nothing but, respect for you. You've been a mentor to us. We look at you as a friend. So, we just want to acknowledge you, man, and say thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking the time to say that. I really do appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's a two-way street.
Cool, man. So where can our audience find more of your work? And for those that are listening, we highly recommend you guys check out his Muscle and Strength Pyramid books. They're absolutely awesome, and you guys will learn a ton. So yeah, where can we learn more about everything that you're doing?
Well, definitely 3dmusclejourney.com. That's the static site. Not that it's static, it's quite dynamic. For 3D Muscle Journey, that's where you can find links to a lot of our content and our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Team3DMJ. And then the Muscle and Strength Pyramids, all the videos, all the articles, the books themselves, testimonials, everything can be found at muscleandstrengthpyramids.com. And then I'm on Facebook. You search Eric Helms. And I'm also on the Instas, and I think my name is at Helms 3DMJ. And we've also got a Team 3DMJ account there as well, which is Team 3DMJ.
Cool. Right on.
And soon he'll probably most likely be on Snapchat, ladies and gentlemen.
He'll come around to it.
Gary is going to make me do it all. Yeah.
Good old Gary.
Yep.
All right, Eric, thanks so much for your time, for your knowledge, for everything, man. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you, guys.